Lebanese.
Man, what a culture you come from, man.
I'm the
I
only person that
mean,
doesn't have hair. Everybody else has full head of hair except for
well,
me.
you know what? I hang out with a lot of Lebanese guys in LA who don't have hair. So, and my oldest one of my oldest friends, Philippe Collin, whose father was French, but his mother is Lebanese, and his grandfather was the president, the first president of Free Lebanon. You know who that guy is?
I do not know.
Okay, I'll tell you in a minute. But anyway, go ahead. But anyway, Lebanon, great culture. Phoenicians, first guys to get in the boat, go anywhere. First guys to have a dye, purple. First guys to like do a whole lot of stuff. You come from an astounding culture, man.
I do my
And
best. My
and
I'll
and
let
by
my
and,
dad know.
and by the way, let your dad know about the food. Let's get it straight. People say, I went to a Mediterranean restaurant. I said, let me tell you something. You go to a Mediterranean restaurant, if it's not Greek or Italian, you're eating either Lebanese or you're eating Moroccan. Those are the two. That's it. There's no such thing as Mediterranean. So everybody in between eats Lebanese derivative or they eat Moroccan derivative. That's it. And America goes, no, no, no. It's Mediterranean. I'm telling you, man. No.
You come to Philly, we'll make you some kibbe, some grape leaves, some string beans, everything like that.
Oh man, and it's sadly, in all deference to my Greek friends, they think they invented that. And I go, excuse me, guys. All those guys all the way back to Socrates were going, hey, the food over there in Phoenicia is better.
100%. If I didn't eat it, I wouldn't be as heavy as I am right now, but it's so good I can't turn it down.
All right, I'm gonna take you up on that, man. Where
But
are you, by the way?
I'm in
Philly?
Philadelphia right now. We're from Chicago originally, but I live in Philadelphia. I grew up here.
Okay.
But hey, Peter, my name's James Masellan from Movie Death Plus. Thanks for sitting down with me today to talk about Bang. Why did you want to take this role? Because you're so evil and villainous in it. Like I love it in every way.
I don't think I'm evil and villainous. I think it's just about a guy who wants his kid back, man. He doesn't want. Are you a dad?
I have a
Yeah.
4-year-old.
Okay, you have a 4-year-old. I got a 13-year-old. It doesn't matter whether you've adopted him and so forth. But so Jack has been my adopted guy, man, and he's leaving. You can't do that, man. You can't do that to dad. You can't leave unless dad says so. So yeah, I'm the helicopter dad. I'm the total helicopter dad. That's the whole thing for me. Look, the thing started with Peter Lenkoff writing a brilliant episode of Hawaii Five-0. Uh, and it was fantastic fun, man. It was just fantastic fun. And then he called me and said, hey, man, we've expanded this with Wick, and I always pronounce Wick's last name. He's a brilliant director, Wick Kaya Konanda. And he's probably rolling his eyes right now if he hears me mispronounce his last name. But a great director and incisive director, amazingly interpretive director. And he said, do you want to do this thing? And I read the thing and I said, yeah, this is about a guy who doesn't want to let go of his kid. And he said, yeah, essentially, in spite of all of the action and Jack's survival, all that, my arc is hanging on to my kid. And so that's what made me want to do it.
You guys
Also,
are
it's Thailand. I love Thailand. I love Peter. I love Wick. So
I
I
was
never
gonna
met
say,
Jack. He was fun to play with.
yeah, you had Jack, you had Peter, you've got I call him Chaos because I can't pronounce his last name. But you guys are out in Thailand doing all that stuff. Well, have you been there before? What was that experience like shooting on location in Thailand?
I'd been there before several times, but that was the first time I really got to go out and hang. I'd been there, on vacations a couple of times, and I'd shot in a movie with Dolph Lundgren and Michael Jai White, Skin Trade, a couple of years ago. But basically, Thailand was like a vacation center to me, except for the Dolph movie. And so when they offered me this, the Thailand's a jam, man. Thailand is one of the great, great places to hang and visit and eat and eat. Talk about eating. And that's a culture in and of itself. Many people just sort of group Asia together. And once one goes from Laos to Thailand to Vietnam to Cambodia, it's so distinct and so different. The cultural identities are so unique. And so that's essentially was the extra perk was to visit Asia.
How was your experience working with Jack one-on-one? Because he's such a fun guy and he's such a beast too. Like he just seems like he's having fun at all times.
It was an absolute pleasure. I didn't know him, but I had a great time with him. He's available, he's fun, he's absolutely on his game. And the only thing you can ask for another actor is like, just like Spencer Tracy and all of them said, just stand up and deliver. And that guy brings it, man. So I had a ball with him, an absolute ball.
as I was preparing for this interview, I learned so many interesting things about you, Peter, that I didn't know before. That you not only have a master's, but you have a PhD in Italian Renaissance art history. Like, like, is that like such an accomplishment for you to be like a doctor in that? Like, how does that feel for you?
I don't know how the hell I did it, James. I got into it through Ally McGraw, the great model actress, but mostly what Ally McGraw is a design and art history major from Wellesley and a stylist. And so she ran with the art world, and I was running with her, and I was learning all kinds of stuff. And then Vittorio Storaro, the great cinematographer of Apocalypse Now, and so forth, threw me into the Renaissance. So thanks to those two people, I meet up with people like Maria Connelly of FIT and other and Walter Liedtke of the Met, and people are saying, dig it, dig it, dig it. And I take this class, a summer class in Renaissance art, and it's movies. James, it's movies. I mean, you walk into some great church and you look at Giotto, you look at somebody, you look at Duccio, you look at these guys, and say, oh man, how'd they do that? How did they paint? How did fresco? How did Michelangelo get the dynamic of depth, on a ceiling? So it's like, how do you do that with a camera? And it's a natural development. And so I'm more or less interested in not just the iconography, the symbolism of it, and the background of it. When I first went into it, I was interested in the photorealism of it. Later on, when I start digging deeper, and here, by the way, here's the book, Leon Battista Alberti in Exile.
I wanted to hear
One
you
of the
pronounce it. I was like, I have to have Peter pronounce it because I'll mess it up.
Well, I mispronounce it, and Rocky Ruggiero, maybe the greatest scholar I know living, says, Peter, it's Leon. It's Leon Battista Alberti. It's not Leon, man. Stop, anglicizing it. And
Realize it's
there's the
4 o'clock, right? So like
QR code.
everything's
Eh,
gonna be here by 5.
Susan, mute.
Yeah, sorry.
Uh, any case, movies got me into it, but then after, I start taking other classes. I take classes in Machiavelli, I take classes in humanism, I take classes in what the Renaissance really is. And what the Renaissance really is the rediscovery of books. If you see this great movie with Rachel Weisz and Oscar Isaacs, a lot of people haven't seen it. It's a Spanish, English, German, French production called Agora, which means forum. It's about the end of the books. It's about the early church burning the books and saying, okay, ain't nobody. You got to remember in ancient Rome, man, even your manservant, woman servants, they could read. They had to go down and get the newspapers, man. They had to tell you what was up on the wall. They do the grocery lists and stuff. By the end of this, by the 500, man, everybody's dead in the water. They don't know how to do it. Then what happens is they say, burn the books, we're going to burn you. See in the Name of the Rose. Umberto Eco's great movie, and book that won the Nobel Prize, won an Oscar, with Sean Connery and Christian Slater and my friend Ron Perlman. And that's the rediscovery of it. Where do they rediscover them? In churches, because some of those guys said, hey, let's not burn them. Let's not say we did, because somebody's going to want to know this stuff. Somebody's going to want to know about science and stars and ethics of Zenon and Cicero and Julius Caesar. They're going to want to know. And so the Renaissance, the rebirth, is really the books. And when I started to see that, that's what got me into doing the PhD. The combination of how the books influence the art is what this book is about.
I took wait for our honeymoon. We went to the Vatican and Rome and everything like that. We're in the Sistine Chapel. I didn't realize how big that ceiling was until I was actually in the room. Like I'm looking for the one image I know, with the hands touching out. It took me like
Yeah,
5 minutes before I could even find the thing at that point. I was like, where is the? I was like, I figured it was gonna be like the whole ceiling. I was like, no, that ceiling is magnificent to look at.
it is, but I got to tell you something about that. That hand reaching out is almost the beginning of the action movie. And if you look at the symbols around, I teach this for high school kids. Because before that, you got what ethos of the perfect structure of the statue, which is essentially what the David is too, despite the fact he's getting ready to throw the rock. But the perfect dissemination, deconstruction of the proportionate system of man, right? But then all of a sudden, Michelangelo is doing a Sistine, and guess what? And one of his buddies, Giuliano da Sangallo, says, "Hey, come over here, man. You know what they're doing? They're renovating Cicero's old house, man. They're finding statues in here that are nuts, with people twisted and moving. The Laocoon, the Ajax, and Mick goes and sees that and goes, "Whoa, that's my jam, man. Enough of this perfection of ethos. I want to do pathos. I want to do action, death, violence, sadness, twisting, finding." And so all that stuff and Adam reaching out to God, man. So you know what you're looking at there? You're looking at the beginning of Marvel Comics.
Everything
There you go.
right there, right in that ceiling.
Yeah.
I always wonder how often into a conversation, how long does it take for someone to bring up RoboCop to you? Because I feel like it happens within like the first 2 minutes. Someone has to bring it up whenever they talk about it.
It's not frequent, unless I'm like doing a personal appearance or doing a Comic-Con or doing a promotion and so forth, then somebody brings it up. And most of the people, thank God, the people who are over, say, 30 bring up the good news about RoboCop, which is the theme of it and the sadness of it and the resurrection of it and the trickle down economics of it and the identity theft of it. And there's so many themes in it that I was unaware of. One time when the triple box came out in 2001, I went to London to promote it, and all these third world countries came up, and I'm talking about African countries, Asian countries, whatever. They said, you look at this as identity theft, like what the money of the Western world has done to the third world. And I went, what? And I got one question after another,
About
James,
that.
one after another, about the theme of RoboCop being the ripoff, right, of economics
Yeah.
on
How the
the.
rich, keeps the poor down and kind of just
Yeah, that's right.
privatize everything and everything like
That's
that.
right. Privatize
OCP.
everything. Yeah, it's all going to work out, man. All you guys got to do is follow the leader.
But I think another one of the movies that, like, I see it today, it's a parallel for today, is Screamers from 1995. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of the ones I've talked to you about the most because, like, you see AI, what it's doing today, confusing people and how it's growing and everything like that. Do you see that from Screamers from almost, what, yeah, 30
Yes,
years
but
ago now?
what, James, I got to say, that's Philip K. Dick. That's Philip K. Dick's genius. I mean, he's the guy that took what, Jules Verne and the science fiction writers before the World War II, what he took. I mean, that's Blade Runner. That's Total Recall. That's the agency of technology subsuming the identity of the human being. And yeah, man, I mean, Screamers is one of the great times I ever had. And I think that movie is way ahead of its time. But that's Philip K. Dick all through and through. We changed the sort of the momentum of it in the division. It wasn't about Russia and America anymore, which is what Second Variety is about. We changed it to like interplanetary competition. But it is that. I'm glad you say that because I got to show my kid that movie, and he's like resistant to see it because he says, "Doesn't it diss intelligence?" And I go, "But Teddy, that's why you got to see it because he's all in the games and he's
Yeah.
totally AI."
Especially with how it comes up with like different forms of itself. It's recreating itself in every step. Like we're not doing it anymore. It's taken over or we can't even stop it now.
Yeah, yes. And the great thing about the story is that the one thing it can't replicate is love.
Nope. Yeah. I'm fascinated by you. Like I didn't pay attention that much in school because I didn't have that many cool teachers. But I feel like if you were my professor or teacher, I'd be totally interested in the lessons, especially like the ancient stuff. Like I was really into Alexander the Great and the Hellenic Age and everything like
Yeah,
that. The
but you know
dynamic.
something, Alexander the Great, there you go. That's the thug at the back of the class. Look at his dad. His dad's the guy who wants to be one of the cool guys. I mean, that's the one thing I get to teach over and over and over again. I said, look, the most powerful single person in the development of the Western world, doesn't matter where you're art, politics, plays, science, whatever, is Alexander. And Alexander, I guess there's a TV script out about, and his dad can't get any noise from Corinth and Thebes and Athens and Sparta, all the dressed up dudes who are like studying all this stuff. So what does he do? He hires Aristotle to come and teach his kid, man. That's insane. That's like hiring Albert Einstein or Bill Gates. Aristotle's not like unknown. Aristotle's like the guy.
He is
He's
the
the guy. And by the
Aristotle.
way, Aristotle's not inventing anything. He's just collecting the info and writing the poetics, writing the science. But to get Aristotle to come and teach your kid so that by the time this kid is 16, not only is he a stud warrior athlete, he's the brainiac of all time, man. And for his notion, I mean, look, this is antiquity. You got to say, okay, did Alexander do some bad stuff? Sure. But what Alexander's métier was, what his jam was to take all this stuff and throw it into the world, man, to Hellenize it. And Hellenization is Alexander. And I think that the more I read about Alexander, the more I think, wow, okay, he's got this thug dad, never allowed. You know what, guys? I'm gonna have my kid be the guy. And the kid does it. The kid throws it, goes halfway around the world. Doing what? Investing the world with the ideals of art, architecture, science, medicine, um, theater, ethics, on and on and on. That's astounding.
Peter, we were talking about your PhD before, but you do get to speak some Italian in this movie. Do you speak it fluently, or like how did that
Yeah,
language? So you speak
yeah,
Italian? All right, everything.
yeah. I threw it in there. Yes, I did.
I kind of figured that you did after I was reading about the Renaissance art and everything. Like, there's no way Peter doesn't speak Italian. And I'm like, all right, so he did it pretty well there. But that's all I've got for you today, Peter. I really appreciate you sitting down with me. It's been an absolute pleasure and a blast to talk
I
back.
just, James, I want to just close. It was a pleasure to do Bang. It was a pleasure to do Morgan, to play that part about a guy who wants to keep his son. That's all it is about Morgan. The action with Jack and there's all this great stuff. And Wick is a great director. Peter Lankoff's a great writer. But what I was playing was a guy who wants to keep his kid. That's it.
Awesome, man. Thanks. I appreciate it, Peter, so much. Thank you.
You bet. My pleasure, Jack.